remember Republican presidential candidate Herman Cain from back in 2012? Because if not, I would love to remind you.
United we stand. I am America, one hope.
So, oh my God. You know, when they were making that video, somebody should have said 999.
Somebody said yes, and it's unfortunate. Now, Herman Cain is back in the news because Bloomberg is reporting that Donald Trump is planning on nominating him as a member of the Fed board, so the Federal Reserve. He would be one of the two individuals who would fill vacant seats in the Federal Reserve, and it's a little bit of a disaster. Now, TYT has been around long enough to have done coverage on Herman Cain when he first received some national attention. And I want to remind you of that coverage that Cenk did actually. So let's take a quick look at that.
He's going to explain his 999 plan. David Gregory's going to challenge him on that a little bit. I'm curious to see what his explanation is. Let's watch.
If you don't pay taxes now, and you now have income tax and a sales tax, you pay more in taxes.
More people will pay less in taxes. More people will pay less in taxes.
Mr. Cain, we've talked to independent analysts ourselves.
Yes.
We're not just reading newspaper clips here.
Understand.
They tell us they've looked at this based on what's available of the plan, and it's incontrovertible. There are people who will pay more.
That's right. Some people will pay more, but most people will pay less, is my argument.
Who will pay more?
Who will pay more? The people who spend more money on new goods.
So he says, all right, some people might pay more. So who are those people? The people that who spend money on new goods. Yeah, that would be all of us because we need food, we need clothing, etc. It wouldn't be the Koch brothers who are saving a lot of their money because they make billions, and their percentage of food is a tiny percentage of their income, where it's a huge percentage of our income. So in other words, it hurts the poor and the middle class the most. He says, but on the other hand, some people pay less, like all my rich billionaire friends.
So that
guy's pretty good.
Yeah, so that's important to bring up because Herman Cain famously had his flat tax 999 plan, and it would have been a regressive tax on the poor. And it would, of course, really limit taxes for the wealthy. And at the time, he was funded by the Koch brothers, who, of course, had a giant incentive to push for this type of tax plan. Now, with that said, in a position on the Federal Reserve, Donald Trump knows that he has an individual who's on his side, but there are some differences between Trump and Herman Cain that I'll get to in just a second. Now, Cain would fill one of the two open seats in the board. The president plans to name Stephen Moore, a visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation and a longtime Trump supporter, for the other.
I gotta say two quick things about Stephen Moore before we move back to Herman Cain. Stephen Moore is all over television defending Donald Trump. That's why he's getting a Federal Reserve seat. Unbelievable for being basically a TV pundit. And Stephen Moore is such a disreputable so-called economic analyst that when I was a host on MSNBC, we used to have debates as to whether we should allow him on air because he would say things not backed up by facts. He was so clownish that it was entertaining, and we had an interesting conversation about should he represent the right-wing perspective on air. But the problem is he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's being nominated to the Federal Reserve.
That's right.
And he might be the more qualified of the two nominees.
So he's
unbelievable.
He's definitely going on a press tour to defend Trump. And one of the main issues that he defends Trump on is interest rates and keeping them low. So Jerome Powell, who's currently the head of the Federal Reserve, has been incrementally and very, in my opinion, insignificantly raising the interest rates, and the banks don't like that because it's going to be more expensive to borrow money. And so the stock market will dip. It usually does dip as soon as the interest rates go up a little bit. And Donald Trump doesn't like that because he doesn't want to appear as an incompetent president who knows nothing about the economy and isn't actually good for the economy. Now, we all know he's an incompetent president and isn't good for the economy. We've talked about that a billion times. But nonetheless, the one thing that it appears Herman Cain disagrees on Trump with is the issue of interest rates. Herman Cain does believe interest rates should go up.
Yeah, but he said that back in 2017. So things have changed, and he can claim that things have changed. I'd be very surprised if he contradicted Trump at this point, given what we're also about to tell you about Herman Cain and his love for Donald Trump. But overall, I want to just clarify one thing. The markets do go down a little bit when interest rates are increased by the Federal Reserve, but so why do they do it? They do it because they want to head off inflation. Because if you don't ever raise interest rates, you might get hit with disastrous inflation, which would then have compounding effects on the economy and could really crater things. But Donald Trump never thinks beyond the first step, and he never thinks beyond his own self-interest. So he thinks, no, keep it artificially inflated, who cares? If it bursts later, I'll blame it on someone else.
That's right.
So the Federal Reserve, in raising the interest rates 3 times, has actually acted responsibly. But now Trump has put so much pressure on them, including nominating 2 guys who are clearly not capable of these positions, just simply based on how much they support him, that he's sending a message to the Federal Reserve: you better not raise the interest rates anymore. And it looks like they're listening because Powell's come out and said that they are unlikely to raise the rates again.
Right, exactly. And Powell was threatened by Trump considering firing him, right? Now, Trump didn't go through with it, but Powell has essentially listened to what Trump wanted and is not raising the interest rates for the time being. Now, let me tell you more about what Cain has done in support of Donald Trump and the reason why Trump likely nominated him. Cain in September co-founded a pro-Trump super political action committee, America Fighting Back PAC, which
It's got a nice ring to it. Okay.
Which features a photo of the president on its website and says, quote, "We must protect Donald Trump and his agenda from impeachment."
So if you form a super PAC in favor of Donald Trump, you too might get a Federal Reserve seat. So look, the only thing that is in Herman Cain's benefit here is, unbelievably, he did serve as a director of the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City once.
That was surprising.
That it's borderline shocking.
Yeah.
And he does come from the business community, but he thinks we should go back to the gold standard. Really, you're going to go on the Federal Reserve thinking that we should go back to the gold standard? That's almost literally unbelievable. And so, I mean, some people have that point of view, but they don't wind up on the Federal Reserve. So I don't know if he still believes that, or if that was some sort of gimmick that he was doing on behalf of the Koch brothers when he was running for office, et cetera. But the main thing that Herman Cain is known for is Libya.
Oh, yes. I was wondering how we're going to fit this in. And
So, all right, listen, he's known for having run a clownish campaign in 2012. And by the way, he was stopped that campaign when significant sexual harassment cases came forward. So I don't know if that's going to surface back. But in that clownish campaign, there was this wonderful moment where he was asked about Libya. Let's watch.
So you agreed with President Obama on Libya or not?
Okay, Libya. President Obama supported the uprising, correct? President Obama called for the removal of Gaddafi. Just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing before I say, yes, I agreed, I know I didn't agree. I do not agree with the way he handled it for the following reason. No, that's a different one. I got to go back to see. Got all this stuff twirling around in my head.
Indeed you do. So I wonder if that's how he's going to make decisions at the Federal Reserve. My favorite was when he moved the chair. He's like, now hold up. Let me move the chair and see if that helps at all. We're talking about Libya, right? I just want to get it right.
my favorite part was when he had already realized he didn't know anything about the issue, but decided to dig that hole deeper, where he's like, what I didn't like about what he did in Libya was, and I'm like, no, why? Why would you say that? But why would you dig yourself deeper? Just move on.
See, gold standard. Let me see if I got this right. It's not about silver, right? Also not about bronze. We're on the same page, right? gold
Oh
standard.
God, we're in a lot of trouble as a country.
He's the more qualified of the two people. I don't know. Actually, I might have said Stephen Moore is more qualified. It's a Hobson's choice, man. Wow. These are the two clowns that Donald Trump is going to put on the Federal Reserve. Amazing.
Amazing.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.